Welcome back to Set Streets and Eats, guys. I'm Chris Bauer, and today we're going to explore the history of a once great electronic store brand here in America, Circuit City. I hope you'll join me. Let's talk about it.
Is over. The Circuit City grand opening sale begins. A new world of video and more video. Circuit City audio, the finest. Appliances, famous brands. Circuit City, low prices, guaranteed low. Circuit City. The wait is over. Finally, there's an intelligent choice. Circuit City. The grand opening sale is on now.
So Circuit City was started in 1949 in a little storefront in Richmond, Virginia by a man named Sam Wurtzel. He started in the front part of a tire shop selling TVs. And one thing was true about Sam and later on, well, really his whole family, because his son took over as CEO in the 70s. They had great timing. Because in 1949 in America, less than 1 million households had TV sets. It was just blossoming after World War II. TV was a very new thing. There was about 25 TV stations nationwide. It was very new. Not a lot of people knew what to expect out of it. And Sam saw the future, opened that little TV store, and literally in 1949 was the beginning of the TV boom in America. By 1953, over 20 million households had televisions. And he was right there at the front of it. Sam called his TV stores Ward's TV. It was an acronym based on the first letter of all the family in his house, his name, his wife's name, and his children's names. And he didn't think Wurtzel would quite work for the American public, so Ward's is what he ended up naming his TV shop. And Ward's TVs sprung up throughout the 1950s very quickly. And they were very successful, enough to get the attention of an up-and-coming big box national discount brand, which was at that time more in New England. Big box stores were a new concept. This was just before Walmart and Kmart had kind of taken off. And this brand was called National Bellis Hess. They invited Ward's TV to be the store within a store, to be the TV department of their big box discount store, department store. They opened their first one in Atlanta, quickly grew to multiple cities around New England and beyond. Those, of course, were a massive success that got their TVs into even more homes. One of the keys to Sam's success, even from the very first TV shop, and he ran this for a very long time, was he would offer free in-home trials. So he would have a salesman bring a television out to your home, hook it up, and for 24 hours, you could watch television with your family. And then the salesman would come back and pick it up free of charge. And like 99% of people would, of course, tell the salesman to leave it, take my money. TV was such a new thing. There were so many new ways to watch it. It enamored the American public. The whole family could sit there and watch. It was just a really big deal. And so Ward's TVs were in these discount stores. They were popping up all over America, hundreds of locations. And by the 1970s, when Sam's son Alan took over the company and became CEO, he had a little bit of a different idea. He had seen how they had done with their own shops. He had seen how they had done with the store within a store, department store aspect. And he decided that it was time to do the discount electric superstore. And he decided that they could pop up their own giant department store, but the departments would all be electronics based. And they would call, instead of calling it Ward's TV, they called this new discount superstore the Circuit City. They opened the first one in 1979. And getting back to what I was saying about being very lucky timing-wise, Alan opened this at the very beginning of the boom of the home video market. VCRs were hardly anywhere in the late 70s, and literally by the very early 80s, they were almost in every home. They just hit at the very perfect time, and just selling appliances and home electronics equipment, it was just the perfect time to open Circuit Cities, and they quickly sprung up. Just the explosion of growth was amazing throughout the 80s and 90s. This little company went from, in 1949, to a family running a little shop in front of a tire store, to, by the late 90s and early 2000s, to having 66,000 employees in 600 different locations. It was a massive store. In fact, there is a economics book that had included this, that was, I think, written in 2001, that had included this in the biggest business success stories in American history, that included Circuit City in that. Most profitable businesses. This was in 2001, by the way. And by 2008, they were gone. Bankrupt. That's insane. But the boom of the video and home video, 80s and 90s, is what blew Circuit City up. Their growth was unbelievable, and their doors were set up a little bit different. They were set up old school. In other words, when you went into their stores, you didn't just do your own shopping. You didn't just go grab your stereo, put it in a cart, and go check out. You talked to a salesman. The salesman would sell you on it. They all were commission-based. And then the salesman would order what you wanted from a kiosk or take it down on a pad early on. And then they would pull it from the warehouse in the back. And then you would go up to the register, and then your product would it would meet you at the register where you would pay for it. That was their business model. And what ended up happening, well, one of the several things that ended up happening, was this business model, as you all know, in the last 25 years became very outdated, because we quit wanting to talk to a salesman when we went into a business. We quit wanting anyone to speak to us when we went into a business. We like to do our shopping. We put our earbuds in. We go in, we grab our stuff, and we like to check out and leave, never speaking to another soul. And you could not do that at Circuit City. You had to talk to a salesman to get anything. And that was one thing that really hurt them business model wise. And their competitor was different, which was Best Buy. And Best Buy saw that writing on the wall. They saw the opportunity to have less salespeople, and it would also be cheaper for them as a company. And people didn't really want to be bothered with a salesperson. And Circuit City didn't take Best Buy seriously when they came on the scene. Circuit City had the legacy. They had been around since 1949. Best Buy had been around since the 80s. They just didn't take them seriously. They didn't think they had what it took to stay around. So it is what it is.
Push it, click it, press it, flick it, tune it in, turn it on. This is what you watch it on. Any way you work it, integrate your circuit at the city. Circuit City.
Come to the place you're welcome. Technology with a heart. Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state of the art.
The future at your fingertips with all the right connections. Punch a key and you can see the new video directions. We can turn your car into an audio star with the one you want or the way you are.
At Circuit City, trained sales counselors are one of the reasons we get higher customer satisfaction ratings than any other specialty home electronics and appliance chain.
A gadget and a gizmo for electric machismo. Some amplitude for the radical dude. We're tuned into your attitude.
Come to the place you're welcome. Technology with a heart. Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state of the art. Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state of the art.
It's funny. I remember when I would come in and shop at Circuit City was in the days right before they closed. If you guys remember, in the early 2000s, the gaming console wars of DVD kind of were at its peak, where you had the whole DVD industry hadn't really picked Blu-ray or HD DVD, if you guys remember this. And most video stores, or most electronic stores, would of course sell movies. They had VHS sections, they had DVD sections, and they had HD DVD sections, and some had Blu-ray. But I remember being in the HD DVD section here at Circuit City, at least at the one in my hometown of Flint, Michigan. And I remember it being, I remember thinking to myself, because on top of the HD DVD section, they had an external HD DVD player for the Xbox or 360, and you had to buy the player to plug it in. And I forget exactly what was the PlayStation 2 or 3 that had come out that you could play the Blu-ray in it, if I remember correctly. I just remember being right around that time. It was such a game changer, and the writing was on the wall for the HD DVDs. Also, not to be crass, but porn, the whole industry, picked Blu-ray. And as the saying goes, once the porn industry picked Blu-ray, it was over for HD DVD. So they had whole sections of these electronic stores that they had to repurpose and pull all those HD DVDs. You know, I do kind of want, I'll bet they're on eBay now, but there's only a few players out there that'll still play those. I do kind of wonder whatever happened to the old HD DVDs. Another thing that was successful for Circuit City was CarMax, the used car dealership. They actually started CarMax in the 90s in Richmond, just where they had started Circuit City, where their headquarters was. And it was such a success that within 10 years they were able to spin it off and sell it. And CarMax is really Circuit City's legacy. It lives on today. There's over 120 locations nationwide, selling used cars nationwide. Huge car lots. CarMax is definitely a big success that Circuit City started and lives on. It's the only thing that lives on from Circuit City, unfortunately. So as you guys no doubt remember, some of these commercials, it would always be this giant plug coming down to plug in, which would create the entrance. So this was always supposed to look like a 3-pronged plug, the entrance was. So every one of these Circuit Cities had that same type of entrance. But this one, honestly, is the most complete that I've seen in, well, 15 years at least. Most of them have been repurposed or whatever. So this was the warehouse entrance. So if you bought something that was bigger, like a refrigerator or something else, you could come out to here, back up. So it had literally had a loading dock for your vehicle that's much lower. And then they would just bring it out and load it into your truck or whatever. But it had those capabilities because everything was kept in the warehouse next to the actual storefront, which was actually just a giant showroom. It's crazy that this has never been repurposed into anything else. Just empty. Pallet decks. Not much else in there. Hand trucks. Lots of boxes of tile broken up. Sitting here empty. For many, many years. So I didn't say at the top of the video, but I'm in, I believe it's called, or pronounced, Calumet City, Illinois, which is just south of Chicago. So yeah, South Chicago. There are certain neighborhoods that get some investment in South Chicago. Not a lot of them. This is not exactly the best neighborhood to be in South Chicago, which is probably why this has lasted this long, especially since this actual color scheme and design is even older than when they closed. I can remember my Circuit City in Flint having this, but this was definitely in the 90s. They actually painted and updated it. They got rid of the white. And it was all, I believe, maroon before they closed. But this is an actual, even older design. And it's so cool that you can still see the actual outline of all the wording from all the signs, from audio, video, computers. I just think that's really cool. And of course, Circuit City. You can definitely see the plug. The plug was always a staple of their building design. I can always see it when you go past like a Halloween, Spirit Halloween store or Spirit Halloween store, or anything that's repurposed those buildings. You can always tell those front entrances, because the whole idea was to be, every one of their commercials ended that way, where it's this plug with all this lightning coming down, arcing, and then getting plugged into the sidewalk right at the front of the building and activating, which is kind of their staple.
I'm standing outside of what was once Circuit City's flagship store. It opened 17 years ago, just across the street from the company's West End headquarters. Both closed this month, along with every single Circuit City store in the entire country, nearly 600 in all.
But it's crazy for a company to grow to 66,000 employees and 600 locations to be gone in the blink of an eye. Their final coffin nail was the housing crisis of 2008. When it crashed in late September, by November 8th, I believe, they went bankrupt. And I think within 4 months, the last location had closed its doors forever, which is pretty unbelievable. Sharper Image, linens and things, those were also some other casualties, brands that went out during the housing crisis. So who knows if they had made some better choices earlier in the 2000s and the 90s, and maybe if the housing crisis hadn't happened, maybe Circuit City would still be around. Maybe they had pivoted. I don't know. But they didn't, and they are not. So now just empty shells of their retail locations still exist in some communities, but most are gone forever. I thought this would be a cool one to stop and talk about the history of that company. They were a staple of my youth. I know when I was into music, in high school, you always checked Best Buy, you always checked Harmony House was a big one for me. Circuit City was a big one for me for CDs. I do also remember, and this goes back to their, again, a nail in their coffin, Circuit City was a little bit more expensive than Best Buy because they had to pay salesmen's commissions. They had to charge a little bit more for their business model, which was outdated, and they didn't know it was outdated. I think everyone else knew it was outdated before they did. And, that's just how it ended up working. But, it was definitely interesting. I do miss them. They used to have these stereo rooms in the back of the showroom. That was, the whole room was set up to be a home theater system. And you could go in, and they were soundproof, so you could go in and just turn it up and, just blow it out. And it was really cool to sit in a theater that was thousands of dollars you could probably never afford, but you wanted it bad. And it was just really cool to see kind of what new innovations were out there. And this is all kind of pre-ordering anything off the internet world that we lived in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it was pretty neat. But, these bring back a lot of memories. Especially buying CDs, just what an archaic practice. I can't imagine buying a CD now. I can't even imagine the last time I bought one. It might have been at a Circuit City. But, this was where you did it back in the day. And, they're all gone now. And shells like these will be gone soon. And, You know, it's just something fun to reminisce about. It is sad to see a great American company like that go down. It is sad. They were around so much longer than Best Buy or their other competitors, but they didn't make it. And it is a shame. I knew a salesman at my Flint location, Flint, Michigan location, that was a salesman, and he loved that job. And I do remember when they purged. So they did a purge in the early 2000s. It was really sad. Again, another mistake they made. Their salesmen made great money. They had great commission. And I think it was almost 4,000 workers, salesmen, came into work one day and they were fired. No notice, no anything. They just didn't want to pay their sales commissions anymore, so they just fired them all on the day. Not a good way to do business, which really demoralized the rest of the sales force. It was like, okay, well, if I make too much money, they'll fire me. You know, and that was already hurting an outdated salesman system that they were already struggling with. And I know they were just grasping at straws, trying to make something work to get an edge back, but it was clearly the wrong way to do it. They even got the wireless outline still here, back when wireless phones were basically flip phones here. Also, check out the old security cam. Check out that sweet security cam. Video alarm. Just protecting it back here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick, brief history of Circuit City. You don't see many of these anymore, and soon you won't ever see them again. And most of you don't even remember Circuit City or even know of it. But it used to be everywhere, just like Best Buys are. And you know, hopefully Best Buy learned from Circuit City's mistakes, which really their entire business model has. However, Amazon has definitely put a hurting on Best Buy's business model. But Best Buy is somehow surviving, so they're clearly being adaptable, which Circuit City was less than. And hopefully Best Buy will weather the storm, but you know, who knows? Maybe their days are numbered as well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the history of Circuit City, and appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye now.